As you can see, the suit is on because we're talking about something that's a little more serious today. But for those of you who've been following this channel for a long time, you may already know this. But for those of you who don't, I have been working in the game industry in Japan for quite a few years now. In fact, I've worked in some relatively larger size companies as well, such as Koei Tecmo in the past. But that said, the reason why I'm telling you all of this is not to flex on you. Not like there's really anything for me to flex about, considering the fact that there are kids half my age earning like more money than I do by posting videos of them stealing toilet bowls from their school. So no, the reason why I'm telling you all of this is because I want you to understand the perspective I'm coming from when I talk about the stuff we'll be going through in this video. Because I'm someone who has worked in a couple of companies, both working on consumer as well as mobile titles. And on top of that, I have been involved in a large part of the process, so the development of the game, the marketing, as well as the interactions they have with the other companies that they are cooperating with. So when I talk about stuff like this, I'm saying it a lot as someone who has some level of experience and understanding of how the industry is operating. And this is going to be important because there are many things with the case we're going to be talking about today that just don't sit right with me overall. But that said, before we actually go into the case of the game itself, I just want to put this out there that everything I'm about to say now for legal purposes is my own opinions and speculation, as well as what is being alleged online. None of this is being treated as fact, and the reason why I'm saying all of this is because of the fact that I don't want to get potentially sued by them, because game companies in Japan tend to be very litigious in general. As you will see as we get later into this video, they tend to take matters that, in my opinion, are a little shady, and I don't know what other methods they might go to when it comes to the handling of information about their game out there. Not that they would be able to do too much legally, I hope, as you will see more of as we get into the rest of the video. Though while this video might be a little more on the serious side, the way I found out about this information should be quite lighthearted at least. So I was just sitting at work typing away on my keyboard like a good compliant game dev salaryman, and then in the team chat within my project, an artist posted a link to a game saying, "Hey, have you guys seen this new game that's about to release? It seems like they're using AI art for all of their key visuals." So like any good literate person would do, I looked at the title of the game, and it was a game called時計物語 Resetto, or roughly translated to English becomes something like clock story ... reset. Put a pin in that because we're going to come back to the name, because even when it comes to the name of the game, there is something very suspicious going on, which I'll explain further later on. And I looked at the link and I was like, well, that's interesting. Though before I could actually type that out in the chat, instead of just saying it to myself like a crazy person, someone else, another artist, actually responded saying, yeah, it really does seem like the art they're using might actually be AI art. It has all of the tropes of AI art going for it. And seeing that second post, I went, now that's really interesting. And so I clicked on the link and went and I looked at the page. And I'm no artist, okay? I'm a balance and economy designer. My job is to sit there and crunch numbers and figure out like what weapons should have what stats, what your damage formula should be, how high your jump should be, and stuff like that. It's a lot of math, and if it sounds boring, sometimes. But you have to understand, I'm Asian, so obviously this comes like naturally to me. But yeah, jokes aside, even with my untrained eye, when I looked at the art, even I looked at it and went, yeah, this does seem to have all of the tropes of AI art going for it, huh? And so with my curiosity piqued, I picked a bunch of the art off of their website and tossed it into Hive Moderation, which is an AI detection tool. I don't know if it's the best tool to be using, maybe you guys would know better than me, but I tossed a bunch of the art from their website into the thing, and wouldn't you know, that's the taste of a liar, my friend. I hope I don't fall sick from doing that. But yes, the tool does seem to churn out the fact that a lot of their art does seem to be quite likely to be AI art. And considering the fact that people whose jobs it is to draw, art in general, particularly for games and anime and stuff, I feel like at the very least it's enough to convince me that the potential of it being so is quite high. And this might just be me being nitpicky as well, but like when you look at the story that's written for the male character, because they do introduce the characters, it does state for the male character that this is supposed to be some guy who has a thing for hourglasses, and like he's supposed to carry an hourglass around and he flips around all the time. Well, when you look at his art, he really doesn't seem to have anything at all that seems to hint towards that. I feel like if you gave this job to an artist to do, they probably would have at least put in some kind of hourglass, or at least an hourglass design somewhere to hint towards the fact that he likes the thing, rather than giving him the armor that every mook in Sword Art Online wears. One other thing that we could all seem to agree on is also the fact that when we all looked at the name of this company, none of us had ever heard of this company before. And the more I looked into it, both the website as well as the rest of the stuff relating to the company as I dug deeper into it, the stranger and more suspicious I became to be of what was going on. In my research and looking for information about this company, I actually came across a video released by this channel here that was released on the 2nd of October saying that they had already found and were playing the game. Or, more specifically, they were playing the traditional Chinese version of the game. But wait a minute. Isn't this game supposed to be releasing soon? And not only that, isn't it supposed to be a new title? So, well, maybe it was something that it released in multiple regions and it's just a few days difference. So it's like, it's a new thing still, kinda. But that's where it gets even stranger. Because in traditional Chinese, it released under a different name instead. Something like
无谓的挣扎。
三只物语
Forest Story.
Remember what I said about the title of the game? Clock Story Reset? Well, it would seem that they had reset their game into Japan with a completely different title. Little strange, isn't it? And I actually went to look up that other title that was mentioned in the video by the person who found the game. And it does exist. Here it is. You know when the gameplay is from? You can see it right there. Yes, this game did indeed release 3 to 4 months ago in Chinese under a different name. And on top of that, it seems that there was actually a lot of complaints in Taiwan itself of people complaining that this game was actually advertising fraud. So, they're telling me that they took this game, which the marketing in Chinese, by the way, is very different from the marketing in Japan. Like, none of the characters shown on the website here actually appear in the Chinese ads at all. The only thing that is consistent between that version of the game and this one is that there's a character in a hood, and that's about it. Isn't it strange that all of these characters, which certain AI art identification tools seem to suggest were AI generated, were suddenly created for a separate Japanese release of a game that apparently had been accused of fraud already 3 to 4 months ago? Oh, how quaint! Are you insinuating that they might have potentially just added new art using AI art software to quickly repurpose this game, which has been considered a scam game for the Japanese market instead? Oh, you can't be serious! If you're wondering how I'm pretty sure that this gameplay is the same as the gameplay of what we'll get with this Clock Story Reset, it's because in spite of the fact that they don't show any gameplay on their official website, when you go to those game walkthrough websites such as gamewith, apparently they actually wrote an article for this game to inform people of like what this game has to offer when it releases. But here's an interesting thing. Instead of this being your regular article, which typically has this text there instead, indicating that a person who was like potentially a reporter for games, however credible you can even consider them, wrote it, this article was instead written as PR. Now, I know that websites like this in certain parts of the more Western English speaking world are treated with some level of respect due to the fact that they do provide some very useful information for certain games, especially gacha games, in terms of like team comm and tier lists and all of the like. But as I spoke about in this much older video where I talk about the history of game walkthroughs in general in Japan, I did mention as well that when it comes to companies like this, recently their profitability has been falling due to a rampant plagiarism within the market. And this has led many companies to forego trying to write good articles that would drive up like ad revenue through traffic to the website, and instead replace it with PR articles where they write what the company wants them to write for a sum of money. PR. How quaint. And when you look at the article itself, when you scroll down enough through the article, you see, oh, what's this? Is this gameplay? No. No. Oh no. They did not care. Oh no. Oh my god. No. Oh my god. It's the same game. It is the same game. I was wondering, like I couldn't find anything till now. They could put the two together. This is it. This is actually it. Oh no. Huh. This does look a little bit like a certain video of a certain game we've already seen. And you know what else? Scroll a little more down. What do you see there? Oh, this article was written with information from them? You mean I'm not getting an unbiased review of the game? It's because of stuff like this that I sometimes say now, try not to put too much faith in these websites anymore. Like even in that previous video, I did mention as well that like the credibility of such websites, that this game walkthrough websites do seem to be a little of question. And the fact that they are writing all of this without pointing out any of the strange thing with the game company, nor with its past, nor doing their due diligence to realize that this game, the information, the images that have been provided about it, seem to hint that this game might actually be a copy of a game that was a scam in another country. Allegedly. Come on, I'm one dude, and even I figured this out. And I'm not even being paid for any of this. But yeah, if that is not enough evidence for you, I have added in the rest of the evidence I found about this game so far. It's all in the back after this point, as you'll see. As you can see, I'm changed out as well. This is because the parts that you saw just before this, I kind of found out about all of the data harvesting that they were doing in Taiwan, as well as all of the advertising fraud stuff as well, like only today, just as I was about to edit and upload the video. So in order to make sure this gets out still before the game releases, I'm just like I'm not bothering to change back. But yes, if you need more evidence of the fact that they actually are trying to scam people of this game, or at the very least of how shady the company is, you can just watch on. There's more stuff here. It's a little more lighthearted because I initially recorded this video with the anticipation that this would just be me making fun of a company that was using AI art to asset flip a very shitty game. But that we are past that point at this point. So yeah, if you still want to see further information, just watch on ahead. The rest of it should hopefully be what you're looking for as well, to see how shady this company is as compared to like how a normal company within the industry would act in certain situations. That said, the company isn't gonna pay me for doing all of this research, nor are they even gonna give me a bonus. So instead of giving all this information to them, I figured, hey, let's just make a video about it so that YouTube won't pay me for this as well, since, you know, if you don't have 1,000 subs, they don't actually give you any money. So either way, I'm not getting paid, but at least if we do it this way, I can be a little more entertained while doing it. And hopefully this gets the information out to more people instead. The thing is, I'm not here to just make fun of them for using AI art. The thing is that I feel, especially if you're an artist working in-house for a company in Japan, if you're gonna use AI art to some extent to support your own work, like the work is gonna be mostly done by you, but you're using it to either get some level of inspiration or reference, or to maybe just use parts of the art while making sure that the large proportion of it is your own, that's still kind of fine due to the fact that Japanese artists, especially in-house ones for game companies, are severely underpaid. For reference, when I first joined the first game company I worked for, the artist was paid 130,000 yen, less than me, as their base salary. And that is massively different. Like, if it doesn't register how much of money that is, 130,000 yen is enough for you to purchase the maximum amount in a gacha game 13 times. Or if you live a frugal life and you eat like 500 yen meals a day every day, this can last you for 260 meals. And this is in spite of the fact that they are as essential to the game as the programmer and the people who are designing the game. I feel like that's a horrible thing for companies to do. And so like if the companies are gonna treat them like this, I feel like if these artists are gonna try to make their job somewhat easier so that they can either run a side gig or take on more jobs so that they can earn more, then that is fine, as long as they don't put themselves in a situation where they will get replaced by the tool at some point. It's not just the art that seems very strange, but when you look deeper into it, like the entire marketing campaign that is going on is very weird as well. So I managed to find their YouTube channel. This is it in case you're wondering. As you can see, the sub count ain't too far from mine, so I ain't exactly punching up with this, it seems. But what is interesting is that if you look at stuff like their PV, for example, you'll notice that they have 31k views. But when you look at the video itself, you will notice that something is very strange with the interaction. Like there's only 200 plus likes. And when it comes to comments, there's actually 0 comments on the video, in spite of the fact that comments are turned on. You would notice that with most videos, like you don't even have to look at mine, just look at any other YouTuber out there, particularly the big ones, you will notice that there tends to be a certain ratio of views to likes and comments. Like it's very odd for a video to have this level of likes and comments as compared to its view count. Then when you go to some of their other videos as well, you just go down to the comments and you see that some do have comments, but it's like very generic, botish looking usernames saying stuff like, oh, I wish this thing got an anime and manga. Like, we don't even know what the contents of this game are yet. What do you mean you want an anime and manga for this? Like, it makes it feel like allegedly they might potentially have bought some of those views, because otherwise it's very strange that they aren't getting much interaction, and the interaction they are getting does seem to be not very normal for what you would expect a person looking at the video to say. But there are multiple other reasons why I'm trying to introduce this to you guys as well. Remember that male character that we talked about that was introduced on the website? Well, they do have an introduction PV for him as well. The only difference is that for some reason with this video, they were calling it a job introduction, not a character introduction. Like this isn't some weird like mistranslation on my part that literally just says job introduction, which struck me as very strange. Like there's an inconsistency going on here between the website and the YouTube channel, in spite of the fact that both are the official source of information for this game. And the fact that they're calling him a job instead of a character, unlike the website. And on top of that, there's the fact that if you look through all of the character introductions, in spite of the fact that they have a voice in the video, none of the voice actors or actresses are actually being credited for their work on the character, which in and of itself is also slightly strange. This is something that most other games typically do. Like if there's ever been any other mobile game, let's take the one that's coming out soon, like Reverse 1999. You look at the character list, typically if the character is voiced, they would put the voice actor or actress's name there as well. In part because it works as good marketing, especially if you got a good voice actor to work on the character. It helps as a pool for the game so that more people will be interested maybe in playing it just because their favorite voice actor or actress is working on the game. And it helps the voice actor or actress to ensure that their name is out there so that if they try to apply for positions in the future, it's easier for them to show that these were the things they worked on with proper accreditation. And it's not just with the voice actors and actresses either. There is no name at all tied to this project. Not a director, not a producer, not writers, nor artists. No name at all is being tied to this, which makes it even stranger. And that makes it even stranger when you scroll further down the website and you realize that they state that they actually managed to get 500,000 people to pre-register for this game. Like, that's an absurdly high number for a mobile game in general. Especially for one such as this, where they have no brand, no IP, not any famous name tied to it. For reference, in case you are wondering, Fate Grand Order only got up to 700,000, which is a respectable number, but this game is alleging that it got more than half the amount that Fate Grand Order did, in spite of the fact that Fate Grand Order, the IP speaks for itself. Many people know parts of the IP in one way, shape, or another, be it them playing the original work, maybe even because of a certain tax evasion animation company Thing is that it's a series that has a very strong brand name to it, as well as many popular voice actors and actresses like the guy who calls you a piece of shit. Yes, senpai! And remember, FGO was a title that released back in the heyday where the perceptions of mobile games, especially gacha games, weren't as negative as they are now. In case you were wondering, nowadays, within Japan even, there are many people who have gotten sick of the idea of gacha in games as well. So, over the years, the number of people who actively play these games are also dwindling in spite of the fact that there are still a fair portion of people who are willing to pay a lot for them. For reference, Reverse 1999 started its pre-registration on September the 14th, so it's been about a month by now since it started that. Meanwhile, this game has only been going on for 2 weeks, so how big of a difference do you think the two games would have? You have Reverse, which has shown its gameplay on its own website as well. Like, it has done a shit ton of marketing, right? It's even appeared at Tokyo Game Show so people could experience the game live. As compared to this game, that has nothing written about the gameplay whatsoever on their official website. How big of a gap do you think it is? Oh, how can this be? This game hasn't even reached 300,000 pre-registrations, and yet that game which did less marketing and has shown zero gameplay is saying that it has gotten to more than half of Fate Grand Order? Well, clearly people must really know very well what the better game is then. So in case you are wondering, in this day and age of 2023, no modern game will ever not hit those targets. The targets will be hit one way or another, because once they set those targets, it's a way for them to set a goal of how big they think the game will get. And to not hit that is a very big marketing flop, and no company wants to have that happen. So since this is a number that cannot really be actually monitored by anyone else, typically, if it doesn't hit the number, they'll just say they hit the number once it gets close to release, because they just don't want players to lose confidence in the game before it even releases and drive down adoption numbers. So yeah, them hitting the 500,000 that they put on their website, I'm not actually surprised, because of the fact that they will say that they hit it regardless. All games nowadays are doing that. What is surprising though is that they actually set such a high number to begin with, because maybe they just didn't realize how massive 500,000 people is. But when you compare it with every other big game out there, that's a very massive amount to have hit for a game that has only actually had articles written about it in certain game guide websites and nothing else. I mean, they don't even have their own gameplay shown on their own website, for crying out loud. Though aside from the pre-registration numbers, they were also doing this very strange giveaway thing where they're like giving away a PS5 and a Switch to people who like follow their Twitter and pre-register for the game. And they're also giving out a ton of just like Amazon gift cards, which when I hear Amazon gift cards in my brain and it comes to stuff like this, the thing I think of first is like,
Want to join my free gift card giveaway? Subscribe to my channel, like the video, and turn notifications on.
I don't know how many of you remember that era of YouTube. It makes me feel very old just bringing it up. But for those of you who didn't know about it, what basically happened was that a bunch of channels, in order to boost their interaction as well as view count and like count, they said that they'll give away like free gift cards for a bunch of stuff, including Amazon, and then they just never followed up on it. It was never given out. And because of that, like in my brain, it's just imprinted that stuff like this is a little shadier. One thing you need to understand is that more often than not, they're actually rigged as well. Even for some of the big companies I worked for in the past, they actually do rig this to some extent. What basically happens behind the scenes that you don't see is that when it comes to giveaways like this, they do give out stuff to everyone in general, but when they say they're going to give out X number or something, typically what's happening is that X is being split into two baskets, with one basket going specifically to people with high follower counts on whatever social media website it is, and the other half of the basket going to the community at large, including those people. The reason why they do this is because they want a good return on investment for this campaign that they're running. So they give part of it to the big social media person so that these people can then show it to their followers and show them that this thing is legit and that in the future they might have a chance to receive it. And so because of the fact that some goes to people who would tweet it and some goes to people who you probably would never see tweet it, it does give it this air of legitimacy. And that's what makes me worry about this specific company. Because like, if even the bigger and more legitimate companies are doing things like this, what makes you think that this much smaller company is gonna keep to their word and truly give away all of these items to people who are subscribing for whatever reason that these gifts are that they really want. Because this then ties into the next point we're going to talk about, which are some of the very strange guidelines that they have on their website. One of which was this line in their terms and service, which I started to read through because of the fact that I was kind of getting more and more curious on what was going on. And so I saw this line within it that said that they would give out 0 refunds unless it was required by law. And this brings us to what, in my opinion, is the most shady part about all of this, as well as the most bizarre part, which is that if you scroll all the way down to the very bottom of their guidelines, it actually states there that in the event that there's any conflict that requires resolution, typically in a legal sense, they would resolve it under the laws of Hong Kong instead. Even if it was a situation that legally within Japan's laws, they would have to give a refund for. Things such as if you end service of the game, you need to refund the players all of their unused premium currency that they have paid for. Things like false advertising, where you need to refund if you say you want to roll back stuff that would make it false advertising. If you assume that they can actually use this law to get away with it, this means that they actually would be able to enter a separate market from wherever their legal jurisdiction area is, potentially do something very irresponsible which will allow them to enrich themselves off of something that the people of that other market would otherwise have been protected against, and then retreat to their own jurisdiction and say that like, no, it's legal here if we did that, so it's fine. This proves to be something that may potentially threaten the consumers here and the protections that they are supposed to get. I apologize if this video ended up being a little too negative, but look, okay, all I want you guys to take away from all of this is, look, if even after hearing all of this, you still want to try out this game, maybe just to like see how bad it is, go ahead, play it and have your laugh. But if you're the kind of person that was thinking of like actively playing and getting into this game, maybe do a bit more research into it. The full picture isn't out there properly, it would seem. Like the websites that are supposed to be providing you with unbiased information are actually being paid off to write articles. And if you still decide that you want to play this game after all of that, maybe do a bit more of a check into the fraud allegations about it in the Chinese-speaking sphere where this game seems to have come from. See what was going on, and then decide then for yourself if this is something you would want to risk putting your money into. As someone who has worked on both like PC console titles as well as mobile titles, I have seen enough people lose money to mobile games that just end within a year. Much more than my conscience would actually want me to. And when it comes to a game like this, where it looks exceptionally risky, because everything about it seems to be very out of place and questionable, as far as possible, I don't actually want to see anybody like lose money to something that might be potentially malicious. Granted, this might be something different. I could be wrong about all of this. Right now, with everything I'm seeing about this title, this does not feel like something I would want to invest my time into, let alone my money. And if you were someone who was on the fence on whether or not to try this game, I hope this gives you more information about the background of what's going on so that you can make a more informed decision on whether or not you want to try it. Because that's all I really want to do with this video. I really do apologize that this video ended up being like a little more overly serious and negative than usual. Usually I'm just talking about weeb events and like actually shit games instead. But like once in a while, I feel like when it comes to certain stuff that happens within the industry, I do feel a little bit like I should talk about it as well, since there is not as much information going around out there about some of this stuff, and I want people to understand better what happens within the game industry in Japan. And with this specific case, it's a very odd one. Like, we talked about the lawsuit with like Konami and Cygames. That was just me trying to explain from my own perspective based on information I had about the situation, what was going on. And this is kind of the same, but the situation seems a little more dire in this case. So yeah, I do apologize if this video was a little, to those of you who are on the Discord, I do humbly apologize. This was not the video that was supposed to come out this week. I actually pushed that video back to next week. I did mention in the Discord as well, if you didn't see that, I'm terribly sorry that that video got pushed back, but I kind of want to get this out before the game releases, because I feel like, if possible, I would like to put out there a warning. Hopefully it actually gets out to the people who would need this information. I don't know how far this video will even go, is the thing. It might very well just stop at 100 views, but as far as possible, I just want this, at least somebody out there to see what's going on, so that like they can at least maybe be stopped from making what might potentially be a bad decision, or at least they can decide for themselves better what is the bad decision. That said, the original video that I had planned for this week will release next week. Everything has been pushed back by 1 week, but that video is actually almost completely done, so you can bet that the next video, and hopefully the video after, will still release on schedule. It's just that the whole schedule is pushed back by 1 week. That said, usually at this point I would say to, you know, the usual YouTube things, but at this point, for this specific video, you don't have to like or subscribe. Better yet, what is more important is that if you know anyone who was actually on the fence on whether or not to play this game, show them this video or tell them yourselves what are the weird things going on with it. Don't let people potentially fall into a trap that could cause them to lose money and waste their time. Because this is not like, oh, Gacha game bad or something. No. This game might actually be something much worse than just like gambling. Like that is something worrying, I find, about all of this. So yeah, that's all for me for today. Take care and bye-bye.